Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Anything Wrestling Podcast. Thank you once again for joining us today. We are back here with another episode. We have another triple threat going today. It is the Shant, Dan the Man.
My name is the Commish. I am the advocate of the podcast. I will truly see what the light reveals if I close my eyes. Anyways, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Anything Wrestling Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Lemon Lime Sprite. Get that zing, get that zow.
Also brought to you by WWE Supercard, the mobile game that WWE produces that I have playing on my phone right now.
And with that, you can catch all your favorite WWE programming only on the WWE Network for a non-negotiable but very reasonable price of only $9.99.
$9.99?
It's not $10.
It's not $1,000.
Ooh, it's not $1 billion.
But $9.99.
And also, again, please be aware that the Anything Wrestling Podcast on Instagram page is coming. So hit that follow button. Body slam those pictures with some likes. Comment your submission moves. Let us know how you feel.
Speaking of submission moves, what's move number 50?
That'd be the arm bar. Bar.
It's a good one.
Anyway, let's flip the switch.
Well, something interesting has caught my eye lately. As you guys have known, I've been on a quest to kind of catch up with everything that's happened in the history of WWE.
And he is doing that on the WWE Network for only $9.99.
And I've reached a point in a particular time where there is a particular individual who I personally think should have deserved a push for WWE Gold, like heavyweight championship gold. And yes, it is, well, as his legal name goes, William Jason Rezzo.
Commonly known as Captain Charisma.
Also known as Christian. It's funny because right before you texted me about doing this episode, I was actually going out for one of my regularly scheduled walks. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I think in 2011 was a great time for Christian to kind of get that, that main event momentum push. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, he wins his first championship in a ladder match. Then he wins his second championship via disqualification. And then nothing really, it was never something that really stood out. And I always felt like Christian, should have, had a long, extensive push, or at least had a really good program. I know that the last couple of years of his career, he was having some great, classic matches.
Yeah, he was sharp.
Yeah.
Like the program with Randy for the World Heavyweight title.
Yeah. It's
a shame for me that Christian never got a shot at the WWE Championship. Like, if he were still around today, I would, like, if he were still performing actively today, I would say he'd be a great contender for the current incarnation of the WWE Championship. He could be putting on great matches with Daniel Bryan and Kofi and KO and all those guys.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Christian's. I love that entrance music. A lot of times on the WWE games, that's the one that I'll give my character, just because it gets me hyped. I have it as a ringtone even, but yeah.
I mean, look into, like, as far as true character development. He went from being like this quiet, mysterious person who was slated to be Edge's little brother to probably one of the funniest, like, tag team gimmicks he had with Edge.
Yeah.
As far as, like, the whole posing for 5 seconds, For those of you with flash photography,
Kazoos.
then kazoos to, that little off point where he was like whining and complaining.
Temper tantrums.
Hell, even with what Stone Cold labeled him at the time. CLB, creepy little bastard.
Don't say CLB.
But then developing into who I really enjoyed, Captain Charisma. Being that standout guy. And yeah, it took the fact that he chose on his own to leave. And obviously he made his name more impactful in TNA.
Part of the plan.
Irony. But then to come back and you know what? I still have something I need to accomplish here. I just want to mention what he's won as far as his belts first.
Okay.
With TNA, the fact that he did it twice in this championship obviously holds more prestige because this is a true definition of a universal championship. The NWA World Heavyweight Championship twice. And then he had the Gauntlet for the Gold in TNA, which was their heavyweight championship. He was the 2-time heavyweight champion of ECW, 2-time world heavyweight champion in WWE, 1 time for the following titles: the European Hardcore and Light Heavyweight Championship, 4-time Intercontinental Champion, 9-time Tag Team Champion, 7 with Edge, 1 with Lance Storm, and 1 with Chris Jericho, which puts him as the 23rd Triple Crown Champion, 11th Grand Slam Champion. What does that say?
Both honors that he deserved.
Yeah.
He was a good performer.
I think that at this point, we've talked about it so many times, starting from late 90s to early millennium, yes, you had Edge and Christian, you had TLC 2 at WrestleMania, you had them feuding with Hardys and Dudleys. I think that's been very well documented. I would say let's move forward to when he came back from TNA. Because I know, Kamish, you were saying how you felt like he was at a point where he needed to have that push, and he left.
I mean, okay, he comes back, it's 2009?
2010, I think. 09, 010.
So WWE is at a point where you have one of the shows going great as far as, Raw. SmackDown was in its dry period, and then ECW was
That was
entertaining.
It was there.
And then just out of nowhere, you have someone with swagger cutting by far probably the worst promo in the world.
Jake Hager?
Sure.
The undefeated MMA fighter?
Yeah, that guy. And it would have been more impactful when this guy announced that he was back. I forgot who was doing commentary at the time for ECW. But he's like, oh my God, it's Christian. It's Captain Charisma. You would think for a guy that's coming back to the WWE, JR would have spiced it the hell up so much. Or,
my God, it's Christian, he's back.
You would have been more excited. But he was still coming back at a point where you're just like, holy crap. This guy is here again.
After all the wear and tear and after all those years, he's back.
Yeah, and usually you would think for someone to come back after everything you had put him through, is he here just a job out, or is he here because there's something big being in the works? Obviously, he came back because he wanted to prove a point, and I personally think he did.
So, Christian comes back. That first year was kind of delegated to the WWECW, which, I don't think anybody really holds any high prestige to it. I think that's why anytime when you see, they won the ECW championship, it's like, did he really win something that's of prestige? It's kind of there. Fast forward to roughly about beginning of 2011, where he was kind of Edge's, best friend, his brother, kind of like his manager. Now, a lot of people would argue that if Edge hadn't retired that year, that Christian would have never gotten that final, main event push. It kind of hurts to think about it that way because really when you consider when he won the championship in that ladder match, Edge had something to do with that. I think he interfered. So I don't know if that was WWE's way of, hey, look, the only reason why you're winning this championship is because of Edge, who's already been in the spotlight, who's become the rated R superstar, who's become Mr. Money in the Bank, who's become the ultimate opportunist. It almost seemed like Christian was always kind of second fiddle, like, he was essentially a Marty Jannetty to a Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, sort of an afterthought.
Yeah. However, you roll around to, once again, when Christian wins that championship, I liked what he was doing when he would come out. He would go, let me have that one more match. And, he would lose, and he would come back, one more match. They turned him into a heel, and, well, actually, no, that was the thing, is that he wins the championship for whatever insane reason. 5 days later, Randy Orton takes the title off of him. It's like you don't even get a chance to soak it all in, and immediately WWE goes, okay, let's pull the trigger on it. Let's take it away. But once again, that built to a great feud between Christian and Randy Orton, where Christian kind of becomes very bitter. Randy Orton keeps on beating him. However, there was circumstance involved where Christian's foot would be under the bottom rope, or the referee would be knocked out. So there would be a circumstance. But once again, they kind of played hot potato with that. And Christian never got that definitive match where it's like he has the 5-star match and he wins the championship. There was always circumstance or shenanigans. And I think that's what kind of degrades it. It's like you have this great superstar who can talk, who can wrestle, who I know for a fact if tomorrow this guy walked in through the doors, he could give you a 5-star match. But yet it seems like it's just kind of, it's so funny because he's even teased it. He's like, I think I would want to be in the Hall of Fame. And it's like, when are you going to give this guy his proper due?
Like, the dude's resume speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You should induct him by now. I mean, is he not worthy of it in someone's eyes, or is it that it's just like it's still too soon because you feel like, take away the injury, how much longer could he have gone himself?
And also consider backstage politics. For a second, they wanted to put a blue dot on this guy's face. And I mean, just for a second, speaking like appearance-wise, he's not the ugliest guy in the world. He's actually a pretty good-looking guy. So I think that's the problem, is that becoming that victim of circumstance where, I think Edge was kind of building that main event momentum in kind of 02, 03, 04, but then finally they pulled the trigger on him. And Edge was always kind of one of those guys where I think even John Cena has gone on record to say, a lot of people were like, no, you're kind of a tag team competitor. You're not really main event caliber. And then Edge just, proved everybody wrong. But it seems like with Christian, that stigma is still kind of there.
He never really broke away from it.
Yeah, I mean, bless the guy for his efforts, but if you ask me, is Christian a main eventer? 100%. I don't know if you guys will recall, I think one of his last WWE championship opportunities, he was facing Alberto Del Rio, I think in like 2014, 2013, and he had this classic 4 5-star match. And it was one of those things where it's like you think that he's got it, crowd pops, oh no, it's a kick out. And that kind of continued for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, where's this, like, why haven't you been putting this guy like in that main event spot? Like, you see what this guy can do.
Yeah. I think he fell victim to starting late. Like, not to say he started his career late, but to say he started that chunk of his career too late in his career for WWE to go all in on it. So I think he started this wave of his career a little late, and so he didn't really get as much room to run before then it was over. I think if he'd had a few more years left in the tank, and he was maybe a couple of years younger in management's eyes, I could see him having reached that pinnacle.
Yeah.
Would he have reached it right after his brother?
I think maybe.
Because it seemed like, alright, it was around 05, 06. They were both on that pursuit. They're like, you know what? We're tired of being mid-carders. we've kind of earned the right to be main eventers. Even if we're on the same brand, one of us should be champion. And it was the Jericho Christian Cena match where I'm like, why didn't you just pull the trigger then? Why not Christian? Why is it that, like, why aren't we giving him his due?
I think that's also where slowly Cena started becoming hated, was because everyone picked up, wait a second, every person that Cena beats kind of gets down the card. At the time, it was Christian and it was Chris Jericho. And then, but obviously when Edge kind of came into the fold, that kind of got broken with the Money in the Bank cash-in and with the feud. I'm gonna take a survey here.
Hey, yeah.
Pauses are getting real long here.
Yeah, world record. Do you guys think that Christian going to TNA is what eventually led to, oh, this guy wants to jump ship? Okay, that's it. Leading to when he came back, it's like, we can push you, but you left for TNA. Do we really want to trust this guy?
I think that in that time frame, that was a big way for these guys to kind of show their true abilities, because
Kind of like the 2005 version of what's going on now?
yeah, because you had a bunch of people at the time who kind of ran their course in WWE and then were either trickling down the card or stopped being utilized, and they were like, well, then fuck it, I'm out. And they,
Kurt Angle was one of those guys as well.
yeah, him, Bully Ray, Christian, Booker T.
There was a lot of WWE talent that left for TNA
Yeah,
and made TNA pretty good.
yeah, and then Jeff, Matt, they both went over there.
Yeah.
And then management obviously shot that company right in the face. But fact of the matter is, that was sort of the proving grounds to be like, look, you didn't want to acknowledge my true abilities. Well, here I am. EC3 did it with them too. He never got to show anything in WWE, and then he went over there, and then they pushed him to the main event. And then you had AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, who started over there for the most part, who were the mainstays for a long time, and now guess where they are? The successful company. But WWE, you always hear it referred to as the big stage, or the grand stage, or whatever people like.
Whatever moniker of like, hey, this is where you're supposed to be. Everything else you're doing is minor league compared to the major league.
Yes, and so WWE is like what you strive for if you're looking to be a famous wrestler, as opposed to if you're looking to be a successful wrestler in general. Because you've got people like Cody and Kenny and all the Young Bucks and all those guys who've made a career over in the other places. New
Minor
Japan,
leagues.
ROH, soon to be potentially, I don't know, still early, AEW. But Christian, like, honestly, Christian 100% probably would have jumped to AEW if it were
Alive then.
if everything that transpired then happened now, he would go to AEW. Just like Dean. Dean is probably the most relevant example right now. Dean felt like he was kind of being shit on by the company. Oh, well, your brothers, Seth and Roman, they're the main event stars. I don't really know what to do with you. Okay, cool. I'm going to go somewhere else then and show you what you're missing out on.
Show you what you could have had, but you held me down.
What do you think, Kamish? Do you think that Christian taking that TNA run was maybe a reason why when he came back, we can push you, but you left?
I think what it is that at the time, TNA was starting to actually blow up because they were getting people like Christian and everyone that Dan mentioned. And you think about it, it's like, all right, obviously WWE is keeping an eye on the people that left because it's like we can blacklist you if you try to come back, or we're like, yeah, you can come back, sure. Yeah. But we're going to hold you down again. Or we're going to limit how much of a push you're going to have this time around. When it came to Christian, it's like he proved that he was championship worthy. The company itself trusted him. Hell, he was trusted with one of the greatest wrestling championships of all time. Twice. And it's like, all right, we kind of messed up by not pulling the trigger on you. Now you're back. We're going to give you something that's equivalent in our eyes to that belt. And that's where I was kind of like, really? The ECW championship?
Yeah.
That's where I was like, okay, you're not really having that full 100% faith in him, but you're at least giving him a chance. And then when he got to get the World Heavyweight Championship, it's like, all right, we really did screw up. I personally think that. Like, I felt like they should have given him that run back in 2005, you know, let John Cena experience a championship failure and lose it. Hell, I mean, the fact that you had him and Chris Jericho both leave around like 3 months apart from each other in the same year, it's like you just lost two of like your best talents.
Jericho was burned out. According to me, was burned out. He wanted to move on to other things. But to go off of that example, Dan, who's to say that maybe if Dean Ambrose returns a couple years from now, is he going to get that treatment of, yeah, you made yourself a big name elsewhere, here you are back, but because you left us, you're not going to get to that level.
Which is what we have seen a couple times. I think, here's what I'll say. Depending on how long he stays away, because I don't know how much longer Vince is actually going to be the main decision maker.
Right.
He's looking a bit haggard.
A little bit?
I think if Vince is still the guy, he probably goes that way. Where it's, well, welcome back, but piss off to the back of the line.
Right.
I think if Stephanie and Triple H have ascended to power, I think that he'll be welcomed back and he'll be put into a position
Second chance.
Yeah. So I think it depends, and that might even be something he's considering, where he's like, I'm going to stay away as long as I can and hope that by the time I come back, somebody else is running the place.
Right.
Because, like I said, he even said expressly in an interview, Triple H should be running that place. So if Triple H suddenly, like if Triple H next week became the chairman of WWE, I wholeheartedly believe we could probably see Dean Ambrose back by the end of the fucking year.
Hell, like even he said himself, like you can give Triple H control for a month and a lot would change and actually be great.
Yeah.
In a month. But who's to say that after that month we go back to the shit we're in right now? And this is my thing, like, okay, you have a guy who came into this company, his first match he wins a championship. How do you not have faith in a guy like that to keep going? Like, oh, he's going to become big. He's going to become great. It's because you have your standards of what you expect, what you want out of your people, and how you want them to be. When it's like, nowadays, like back then it worked, obviously, because it's like, hey, we're following a particular script we want to do because this is what's selling. Now it's like you see all these different evolutions of like wrestlers and superstars and whatever you want to call them. Traditionally wrestlers.
Yeah.
You see what they do as far as like, hey, if I'm not happy in the grand stage, the world's going to love me. Because obviously I've built up enough of rapport where anywhere I go now, they know who I am. Am I going to keep the same name because the company owns it? Maybe. Maybe I'll get the rights to it. But they're going to know who I am no matter what. Like another perfect example, John Morrison?
Yeah, Johnny Impact.
I honestly, this is an episode that's yet to come, but I plan to talk about the year 2011 one day in WWE. John Morrison that year was doing so many great things that I thought it was almost just a matter of time until he gets a Money in the Bank win or gets an opportunity to actually, have, the main championship in his hands. Because the matches this guy was having was amazing. And, the way that he was, jumping and flipping off of stuff, like, it's what fulfills the criteria nowadays. Yeah. But, to kind of touch on that for a second, I've always felt that, if you're a businessman or a businesswoman, whatever it is, if someone comes up to you and goes, I tried it here, it's not working out, I feel like I need to go elsewhere, there is a certain part of you that thinks that, their boss would understand and go, okay, look, you're burnt out, you feel like this is not where you want to be, I'll respect your wishes, work until the end of your contract, that's it, end of story.
You're free to go.
But it seems like with WWE, it's like, oh, you want to go to someone else? We're going to job you out. We're going to make you look like an idiot. Then we're going to release you. And even if you try to come back, no promises.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like that has really destroyed a lot of relationships between superstars and WWE. And that's why sometimes I wholeheartedly believe, for a Christian, let's say, who probably feel like, hey, you know what? I've been riding this wave for a while. Maybe it's time to go elsewhere. Maybe it's time to experiment. It's like, and I get it. Back then, TNA was what AEW now is to WWE, where it's like you don't say it, you don't talk about it, you don't mention it at all, and that's fine. But when it comes to backstage, tell the guy, okay, I get it. You want to go elsewhere? Let's close out your contract, wrestle till your contract runs out. Best of luck. Hope to do business with you again soon.
Yeah.
I don't get where the pity and like that stubbornness comes from. I really don't. It's like you still want to keep a relationship with those people because you don't know. Tomorrow, the next day, so-and-so goes, hey, went out there, tried it out, it wasn't for me. Can I come back? It's like you want to still have that relationship as opposed to burn that bridge, that's it, you're done, you're over.
And who's to say that you as the company don't let the person go and then suddenly they blow up, a la Cody.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, do you think that we will ever see Cody back in the WWE? Like, I know he's not like John Cena famous, but as far as like wrestling goes, everyone knows him.
Do you want to take this stab at this?
Okay.
This is, it was more of a rhetorical thing.
No. We understand where you're going
Yeah.
with the question. Is just like, what's the best way to answer it?
Because now WWE is probably sitting back going, well, fuck.
Here's the thing. I think a couple things need to be in place for that to happen, for Cody to come in. First of all, I think that Vince McMahon has to not be in charge.
Correct.
Secondly, Cody Rhodes needs to be in a role where he has ran AEW, he gives that control to someone else, and he kind of steps out of the limelight.
Yeah.
If we fall into a situation like that, yeah, maybe not right now, maybe not next year, maybe not 2 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe just somewhere deep in the future. Yeah. Because we've had the WCWs of the world, we've had the TNAs of the world where you don't mention the name, you don't say anything, it gets edited out. Now you have specials on the network where it's right there, live and in living color.
Yeah.
You have people like Dixie Carter who show up and have, interviews. Then again, I would like to think that it's Triple H who's kind of bringing those people together. Because Vince McMahon seems more of the type where he'll just separate and not really ever look back, which is kind of a terrible business philosophy if you think about it, because everyone makes mistakes. You can't just go, you made a mistake, all right, then goodbye forever.
Once you burn that bridge, eventually you're going to run out of people.
Let me throw a couple names at you, people that we thought would probably never ever come back. Jeff Jarrett, Ultimate Warrior, Bruno Sammartino, Jeff Jarrett, it boggles my mind. This guy's in a suit backstage being a producer, helping out the talent.
Yeah.
In 2001, if you told a wrestling fan, they would go, you're crazy, get out of here. Paul Heyman, who had a big, falling out. This guy who created ECW, this guy who was a big advocate. Even, dare I say, even CM Punk. Granted, he has problems with Triple H, but I feel like if the old man is out of the picture, these two can talk and go, okay, look, this happened, I said this, you said that, water under the bridge, let's move forward. To answer your question, yes, but not in the immediate future. And a couple things, kind of like Steve Austin's King of the Ring, where he got injured, Jake cuts that promo, he comes back, Austin 316 is born. Certain things have to fall into place for that to happen.
Yeah.
Commish, your take? Cody Rhodes ever coming to, or being shown anywhere?
First of all, he can go by Cody Rhodes overall, because the whole I'm just like one name Madonna shared type shit is really odd to me with him. I get it. It would take a lot. I think it would take literally the old man just not being in the picture, because it seemed like when Triple H was doing everything he could before AEW's immediate beginning, he was trying his hardest to get him and the Young Bucks and even Kenny Omega into the door. Like, hey, I know what's happened. Well, at least to Cody, I know what's happened in the past with you. This is what happened to your career. I know what you're capable of. I want to have you become a talent again with us. Obviously, he said no. The other three said no as well, because they knew they wouldn't keep every promise that they were going to be given by Triple H, because the old man has to have control. So yeah, that's what it would take. And I'm sure, like, in the past, it's like all these people that have left and come back, like, they don't regret what they've done in their careers. If they did, they'd be like, why did I even come back to WWE? You know, what was the point? Yeah. Obviously, they came back because they knew it's like, hey, this is an environment that I'm welcome back to regardless of what's going on. It's just sad that it comes down to the fact that it's like there's one person in play that's holding greatness back. I'm not saying that we can only be WWE fans. There's people that are fans of WWE that are also like, oh, I like Ring of Honor, or I like New Japan, or I like all three, or I like all promotions of wrestling, or I like strictly independent shit, you know? And sometimes that's fine. That's always fun. It just sucks that it's like, oh, but you have to like WWE. It's like, no, I don't. I can like someone who was in WWE, and I will continue following them career-wise wherever they go. Back then, yeah, we didn't have a big plug of social media to be like, oh, well, I got to find out when his events are, what channel they're on, yada, yada, yada. Now it's like, oh, they have a following page, a fan page, or their own active Instagram or Twitter or whatever. I don't need WWE.
Yeah.
I just need that one person I like.
Dan, what do you think, to answer your own question? Cody Rhodes ever in WWE, or is he ever coming back? Or
if I'm entirely honest with myself, I doubt it.
Okay.
Do I think he could? Kind of under the same conditions we've already drafted out. Vince can't be in charge. He's going to have a conversation with Triple H. Triple H has to offer him a lot of money.
Or interpromotional shit.
Yeah, or that's something that could potentially happen if Triple H ends up being in charge. Vince is very he's very exclusive. He's like, this is my world.
Yeah.
So he keeps the city gates locked versus Triple H, who seems like if he had control of the company, he'd be like, well, shit, we can market ourselves if we partner up with New Japan, if we partner up with ROH. To an extent, I mean, I know they've made a couple of deals with the other companies for like footage and stuff, but I mean, if you have a working relationship with a company, guess what? They're probably going to open their video library to you like that. And then you can put all of the superstar footage that you have.
One thing to touch on is I believe they're doing what's called StarCast.
Yeah.
Where they're, rallying up a few people, and apparently there was a superstar from AEW, a female competitor, I believe, who was going to be a part of that to take on a WWE female competitor.
Yeah.
And WWE was like, So it's like...
And that's what kills me. It's like, why can't we have that?
It's 2005 all over again. It's TNA all over again.
But even then, like, in the late 90s when McMahon was like barely willing to allow ECW in its doors. It's like, okay, you still let it happen. Let one match. What's one match of one person against someone else in an all-inclusive fucking event gonna do?
I think with Vince, with age, it's like his mindset has just become more and more narrow to where that window is closing. You know, because
like he's still stuck in the 80s thing where it's like, no, I need
no
to be
worse,
in controlled
no
territories.
worse. Because it's like if he put out territories, there like he still had a really good product. I think it was slowly when WCW got bought and you kind of saw like everybody, you know, from ECW, WCW came onto the WWF's roster, but everybody kind of just either got jobbed out or, you know, got a really bad gimmick like, you know.
Vince is a hoarder. He buys a bunch of superstars, but he just plays... He's a child with too many toys.
Puts them on the shelf.
Yeah. Or just shoves them in a box.
Yeah.
And says, well, I mean, I just like these 3.
But I have a whole collection of 12.
Well, do you want new toys? Why don't we go to the park? I don't want to go to the park. I want to stay here and play with my 3 toys. That's basically the crux of it.
Yeah.
No offense. No,
the sad part is one of them is Brock Lesnar.
Like, I'm not trying to, like, throw a ton of shade, but, like, that's the reality of it, is you're not willing to work with other companies. You seem to gravitate toward the same 3 people. I just picked a number. The same 3 people at any given time. You give up on things real fast.
You still think potty humor is what everybody wants to see.
Yeah. If you don't grow, you get left behind.
Yeah.
And
that's what's slowly happening, unfortunately.
And but that's the thing, is that, like, I think wrestling fans as a whole, for the most part, are kind of like waiting with bated breath. They're like, when is the torch going to get passed? When is everybody else except Vince gonna be in charge?
Yeah.
Because I can't speak to the methodology of Triple H and Stephanie, or Shane, but I absolutely feel like they'd be more willing to collaborate with these other companies than the old man is.
Like, imagine, like, how would you feel, honestly, if those, is WWE and AEW secretly working together? If that was true, but it had nothing to do with the old man.
Before that sparked up on the internet, the thought crossed my mind where I was like, can you imagine one of the biggest, like in the future when we look at it, one of the biggest hidden secrets and best storylines is that WWE and AEW are secretly in cahoots.
Because at that point, it's like you said, the keys to the doors of the city are open. We've let people in. It's just they've been on a particular side of the city that, as WWE fans, we're not allowed to see.
I will bring this up. I can remember I was recently watching a thing on the network where, you know, Shane had told his father during the WWE ECW relaunch, he's like, Dad, maybe we should do it as a, you know, online streaming thing. And, you know, Vince kind of, you know, juggled the idea, but then he's like, no, let's put it on network. And I think about it, I'm like, you look at people like Shane who had envisioned, who wanted ECW to be what it used to be, edgy, you know, have a little bit more leeway. Then you look at people like Triple H, who gets, you know, told, okay, come to the meetings with us to see what happens in the backstage area. Within a few years, you know, creates NXT. So you see members of the McMahon family trying their best to
branch out,
to get this thing out there, but it seems like the whole time Vince is kind of the one guy who's like, maybe not. Oh no, we're not doing that. Wants to hold everything right here within his grasp.
But it's like, and then at that point you're like, but this sounded good. This sounded good. Yeah, I don't care.
I know what I want.
What?
I know what people want.
No.
I know more what people want than what they think they want, essentially. So anyway, I mean, we went off the rails a little bit, but back to Christian, you know.
What should have been is that, like I said, the whole point of this was, I think he deserved a run in 05. Would that have slated John Cena's career? No, but it probably would have made him less hated.
even not in 05, in 2011. I thought you could have booked him a bit better. Not that it was horrible, because we've seen more horrible than that, but you could have given him like a solid couple matches where he's going over, he's winning, he's solidifying himself as a face. Then when you turned him heel, that would have been the whole thing of, okay, now here's a new dynamic to the character. As opposed to, winning a ladder match with the assistance of your best friend and winning your second championship via DQ. So, any final sentiments about Christian before we wrap up?
Again, I think next year should be the year the induction happens, at least.
I'd be okay with that. I mean, there's only so far I understand the idea of maybe there's more worthwhile people ahead of him still in line, but who gives a shit?
Well said. And with all that said, there you go, guys. We just gave our opinions about Christian and his sort of last decade in the WWE. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below, and we will see you all next time.